Hello, welcome to the instructional video for week 24. Let's go over your objectives. For your language objective, we have uses past tense verbs. So getting your child to talk about things that happened in the past. And ideally, you would like to incorporate some of the regular past tense verbs that end in ed, as well as some of the irregular ones, like, for example, sang, went, felt, gave, flew, things like that. So some activity ideas to help you incorporate this is just as simple as asking your child to talk about what you did yesterday. Then that's a great way to incorporate, time vocabulary as well, and maybe throw in some complex sentence structure so you can incorporate a lot of language activities into that one. After an activity, you can ask your child to recount, for you or maybe for somebody else, what you just did. Oh, we just ran at the park. After reading a story, you can ask your child to narrate what happened in it. And then you can prompt them by saying, and then what happened next? And again, it's a great way to incorporate a lot of vocabulary, a lot of our language objectives, complex sentence structure, as well as this week's objective of past tense verbs. For your cognitive objective for this week, we have mimics the problem-solving strategies of others. This could come very much in handy in a kindergarten type setting. So for this objective, you're going to need for your child to play or work on a project cooperatively with either an adult or another child. And ideally, you want that other person to be more familiar or more experienced with the task at hand than your child is. Because what you're looking for in their behavior is for them to watch the other person and see how they successfully, navigate problems and complete the task, and then incorporate that into their behavior and mimic these problem-solving strategies that the other person is using successfully. So if you don't notice this behavior in your child, you then prompt them to watch what the other person is doing and see how they navigate the situation, and then to try some of those things themselves. So, if you watch your child and you don't notice them watching the other person and looking to incorporate some of those strategies, then prompt them to do so. So some activities for this might be putting together a more challenging jigsaw puzzle, or building a more complicated, Lego structure, for instance. Maybe navigating an obstacle course or some sort of apparatus at the playground that is new to them. That's a good chance to prompt them to watch how other children do it. Watch how that child climbs the rock wall and where they put their feet, to give you ideas for where to put your feet. Maybe it could be as simple as building a pillow fort, with pillows and blankets, for your child and their friends, that is big enough for all of them and that doesn't fall down. So your child, that's actually a pretty tricky task sometimes. So your child has to, watch either you or some of the other children and how this is built in order to successfully build this fort and not have it fall down. For literacy, this is my favorite letter to talk about. We're to the letter X. So I'm going to get on my soapbox now and talk about how this is the most incorrectly taught letter to preschoolers ever. And the manufacturers of so many products for children that teach the alphabet, whether it's alphabet books or toys, anything that has letters on it, and particularly letters with an example word, they so often get this one wrong. So I'm going to teach you how to be on the lookout for this. So they've decided that either good example words for the letter X are xylophone, in which X does not make its main sound, which is a combination of a K and an S sound. It's kind of two sounds together. That is the main sound of X. So you either get xylophone, where it makes a Z sound, or the other one you usually get is X-ray, where X doesn't make a sound at all. It says its name, X-ray. Horrible examples, and nothing you want to use to teach a child the main sound of X. So the problem is that words that begin with an X, it doesn't make its main sound. That's where X makes the Z sound. So you just want to immediately stay away from words that actually start with X. This is where manufacturers of children's toys get hung up, because they want a word that begins with X. But what you want to do is just simply teach your child, if you've been using words all this time with letters that start, so if you're teaching them the letter S, then you're using an example word that starts with S. And if you're teaching them M, then you're using example words that start with M. So if you've been sticking to words all of this time where the word starts with the letter that you're teaching, then this is going to be an exception to that. And you're simply going to tell them that, X, when it makes its main sound, does not come at the beginning of the word. And you use nice short example words like axe or ox or fox or box or fix, any of those words. Totally fine. And just simply explain to them that it's an exception. Now, if you've been mixing it up the whole time and also pointing out example words where the letters don't start at the beginning of the word, then this is just another one of those examples. But please stay away from xylophone and x-ray. Horrible example words for this letter. And now I'll get off my soapbox about the letter X. For math, you have estimates, simple measurements. So again, you're kind of back in the kitchen or with the tape measure or with the ruler. And now they've had a lot of experience using these tools. And so you're going to ask them to make guesses about how much stuff seems like. How many cups of flour do you think this will be? And then measure it out. How long do you think, how many feet do you think that the table is? And have them guess and then measure it. So now now that they have some experience with it, you're gonna ask them to make some guesses and some estimates in advance. You're gonna move from practicing the months of the year to practicing the seasons, which is something that a lot of kids at this age are already familiar with. You're just going to want to practice naming the seasons in order, to maybe talk a little bit about them. Now that they know the months of the year, you could talk about which months fall into those seasons, at least in your part of the world where you live, and maybe what holidays fall in which seasons, things like that. We're going to work on reading the hour on an analog clock, potentially an advanced skill. Again, this is totally optional. This is if you feel like, you have time and you're ready for this one. And if not, you can stick with some of the other math objectives, more foundational ones. And then knows that $1 equals 100 pennies. So by now you've had some opportunity to practice, the names of the coins and their values. And so this is just reinforcing in your child's mind the equivalency of $1 to 100 pennies. And it's a great way to practice counting to 100 too. For fine motor skills, we have 1 tripod grasp activity, 1 open thumb web space activity, 1 gross cylindrical grasp activity, and 1 spherical grasp activity. And under under relationship skills, we have asks for help from peers. So this is one that you can actually combine with the objective where your child is watching and mimicking the problem-solving strategies of others. So as your child is working on this project, if you're having them work with another child, then maybe they even ask that child for assistance with their with what they are doing. Like, hey, will you help me with this? So that's a good way to incorporate those two objectives together. Under the category of self-awareness, we have demonstrates reasonable confidence and or caution in approaching new experiences. So in order to do this, you have to be offering them some new experiences. This could be a play date with a new friend. It could be a new sort of mommy and me class. Maybe go to mommy and me gymnastics or something of that nature. It could be a new playground that you go to that you've never been to before. It could even be a new type of craft or hobby or sport that they've never tried before. And then for your project for this week, we have letter building. This is a really fun one where your child, especially for kinesthetic learners, where your child is constructing the letters of the alphabet. It's a great pre-writing skill. They're constructing the letters of the alphabet physically with either toothpicks or maybe pretzel sticks and marshmallows. It's a great activity, and you can either stick with the letters that have all straight edges, or you can up the skill level a little bit and include like the circular pretzels pieces and have them construct, letters that have curved edges as well. And if your child is, even though we're up to the letter X, if your child's already familiar with the letters Y and Z, you can incorporate those as well and just do the entire alphabet, or you can leave those 2 letters out of this project for now. So I hope you have fun with that, and we will see you back next week.